Hey everybody, today we are talking about Cinnamon Roll Murder by Joanne Fluke. So today, since we are making cinnamon rolls, it's going to take quite a bit of steps because we are making the dough completely homemade, and we really like cinnamon rolls here, but I've never made the entire recipe homemade before. So we're going to go ahead and start with our dough. We need to prepare the mixture for the yeast to start proofing in, which is going to be the hot coffee mixed with the warm milk. And then we set that aside for it to proof while we start adding part of the coffee and milk mixture. And then we are going to put the butter and the flour in there as well. Look at that yeast proofing. Then we're going to add that yeast into our mixture and start slowly adding our flour so that we can get our dough to be dough. And then we're going to have to just knead it at that point. While I am getting this dough ready, I will tell you about our story. So in this one, we start out with it being the end of April, or maybe the beginning of April, and the snow is still kind of melting from the winter, and basically Hannah is trying to drive really careful because she doesn't want to get in an accident. She has to deliver her cinnamon rolls to Sally's Inn because there is a jazz band that is going to be performing, and their name is Cinnamon Roll 6. And so she's making cinnamon rolls to take out for their dress rehearsal, and the roads are really bad, and she notices how bad they are. And unfortunately, fortunately for her, she's able to pull off and avoid anything, but there is an accident. The ice has refroze after being melted, and the band bus unfortunately is one that gets tipped over, and pretty bad. And so Hannah basically could hear it even though she'd pulled off. And so I believe she's with her sister Michelle, who was going with her to deliver them. And she's like, we better go back and see if they're okay. So they carefully walk back, and they find the bus, and they call and see if anyone's there, and somebody lets them in. His name's Buddy, and he is the keyboard player of the band, and he's the only one that's been kind of his wrist might be sprained. So everybody else seems pretty fine except the driver. The driver unfortunately died, and there's speculation as to why he died, but no, it was not a murder. So at first it might seem like maybe something happened to him, and that's what caused him to crash, and he was murdered or something. But no, we have a different victim for this book. And so they get everybody to the hospital, and Buddy's about to go in for his x-ray to see the damages and everything. And Hannah's mom, Dolores, has started to become more selfless lately and is volunteering a lot at the hospital where Doc works, because I'm pretty sure Doc Knight and her are hooking up. Well, they are. And so she is going over to check on things, and it turns out that she finds Buddy's body has with surgery scissors or whatever, and so he was killed. And so they're trying to figure out what the motive would be for someone to kill him off, and that is where our mystery murder begins. We also have the side plot from, if you watched my last video, which was the devil's food cake murder, we discovered that something happened that caused Norman to be distancing himself from Hannah. And it turns out that thing, which I will now reveal since I didn't in the last video, is that he has a daughter with Dr. Bev, who didn't say anything about the daughter until now, or until the last book, and says the only way that he'll be able to keep his daughter in her life is if he marries her. And he doesn't want to marry her. He doesn't love her. Obviously, he has feelings for Hannah, but the problem is he just feels trapped because, you know, he's not going to just like abandon a daughter he didn't even know he had. So anyway, everything about Dr. Bev is really fishy. Just doesn't seem right that she's doing this, and that she seems like she's just one that tells lies a lot. And so Hannah doesn't really see what she can do, but her sisters are like, you gotta fight for him. Like, he will be miserable. You gotta fight for him. And so they decide, with the help of like his mother and everything, that they're gonna like get DNA samples to test to see if the daughter is actually Norman's. And if it's not, then he's doesn't have to deal with any of this. That is also happening while they are trying to figure out who murdered Buddy. Some of the suspects, they were just so easy suspects that I'm like, come on, Hannah, you've done this like 15 times now, you should know. Like, you should see the signs for who's like really obviously a suspect, because it took her a long time to figure out like what one of the suspects could have been. And I was like, yeah, you should have been like suspecting them a long time ago. Like, what took you so long? I feel like this one was like not too hard to figure out. One of the easier ones to figure out, I think. And it was a fairly good story. I did like the whole side story with Norman and trying to like win him back and all in this like they go through all this extra stuff to try to get the DNA sample, and like I liked reading that part. And of course they figure out who it is and all that like usual, and things are fine. But there's just this part where Hannah, you again, going through this 15 times, you would think that she knows what to do at this point, because she's like investigating an area and her family's with her, and she's like, no, you guys go and do this, and I will stay here and take a look at this. And again, she is making herself be alone. I don't know why she always does this, because it's always when she's alone that the murderer like reveals themselves and comes and tries to like attack. And it's like, why, when you know that you are this close to figuring it out, or you're pretty sure you did, why would you let your family leave you at this point? Because of course there has to be a chase scene from the murderer again, because she doesn't learn her lesson. Anyway, the ending of the book, besides like, you know, figuring out who the murderer is and everything, she gets results back with the DNA, but it turns out that Norman also was running a sample himself, and he's like, you don't think I would actually like go through this whole thing without checking this myself, right? And so he also was wanting to make sure that the DNA did match as well. And this whole time, like, they're like getting ready for, you know, like the wedding and everything. The wedding is supposed to be in like 5 days or something. And so time's running out, and Hannah is like doing her best to like confront Bev and talk to Bev and figure out the truth and all this stuff to try to like make the wedding not happen. And so she even has a nightmare that like that it does go through and that she can't do anything about it. And all this makes me think, if this is how you're feeling, why did you do nothing sooner? And why haven't you just said yes and got married to Norman at this point? Because yes, Mike is in this story again, and yes, he's an important person in her life, but still, all the signs point to like Norman being the good fit for her. So I know she's gonna get married in a couple more books, so I have to just keep reading to see what happens, and something tells me that something's gonna go wrong and it's not gonna be Norman, but I just have to keep reading to find out. So anyway, that's basically what happened in this book, and I am going to see if this is okay and ready. I might need to do a little bit more kneading, but I think it's almost ready, and then we have to let it rise, and then we have to cut it and do all these things to make the cinnamon rolls. So I'll be right back. So it's been a little over an hour, so we're gonna go ahead and dump out our dough right here so that we can flatten it and then start to actually assemble our cinnamon rolls. Something that I did forget to mention earlier was, if you've been reading any of these ever, you know how much Hannah and everyone loves their coffee. And one of the ingredients in this is coffee. And I was curious, and so at the end of my reading, I looked up how many times that it mentioned coffee, and it was exactly 100 times. 100 times coffee was mentioned in a book that's not even that long. That's how crazy, ridiculously in love they are with coffee, and I just think that's funny. Now we're going to take this nice softened butter and we're just gonna put it all over our dough, and then we can put the cinnamon and the sugar and the chocolate chips, and then we can roll it up. Another thing that I also was noticing a lot about this book, and I guess it's kind of in a lot of the books because it's just part of her writing style, but she tends to like dumb things down. And I don't know if that's just because it's like the cozy mystery genre that they want it to be, like, you know, not so much like brain work to figure things out. I don't know. But to me, there were just certain things that I thought, this is like so obvious. And also it kind of makes it feel like she doesn't trust the readers to be able to like read between the lines or figure things out. Like there was a part where Hannah's like running away in the hospital and she goes into this room and it's described as having like drawers, like pull out drawers and everything. And I'm like, okay, she's in the morgue, like the hospital morgue, obviously. But like, it's like another paragraph and a half before she's finally like says, Hannah just realized where she was in the morgue. And I'm like, well, no, duh. Like it was very easy to figure this stuff out. And there's other times where she'll have a character say something and then the narration like right after that will be like, Hannah understood this to mean this or whatever, and it like just spells out exactly what the meaning was behind the previous sentence. And it's like, okay, you didn't need to say it 2 times because I already understood that. And I don't know if it's because she wants to make her word count longer or if she really doesn't think that like it's a very important detail that she wants the readers to really catch, so she like says it again in a way that just, it's like, well, you don't even need to like say that because I got it the first time. So I feel like that happened more in this book than I noticed in some of the other ones of her books, but she still does it enough to where I don't understand the purpose of it, but that's something I noticed as well. Okay, I'm going to start getting the rest of this stuff put together so we can finally get it to the second stage of where we have to let it rise again before we can finally bake it. Anytime I've ever tried to cut cinnamon rolls, they always end up squished, and I've looked up ways on how to fix that, and they've never worked. But yesterday, I actually found a solution to my problems, which is just cut them before you roll it up. And we're gonna do that. Genius. These look so good. I went ahead and plated one of these, and now we're going to give it a taste. Okay, I think it tastes great. The presence of that coffee in there was only half a cup of coffee mixed with milk that was in this, but you can absolutely taste it and it's not overwhelming. The actual dough is very soft. It's very fluffy. You definitely smell the coffee too. Even though it took a very, very long time to make these just because of the waiting. If you have some extra time and you don't want to just do store-bought ones, this is definitely the way to go. The chocolate chips, I used mini chocolate chips, so I think that also helped because it's not overpowering with the chocolate feeling or the chocolate taste either. So yes, this recipe was a success. I know some of my recipes are kind of hit and miss of the Hannah Swenson murder mystery recipes that I've tried, but this one, everything actually went really well. I was nervous about the kneading of the dough, if I like was gonna do it too little or too much, but I think everything miraculously worked out perfectly. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.